we are going to focus on business continuity and disaster recovery. So let's start with business continuity and disaster recovery as well. I think there is some area which is overlapping. When you prepare your business continuity plan, at the same time itself, you also prepare your disaster recovery plan as well. These are not two distinct things, I would say, but there are significant difference between them. You can consider it like this. BCP is a holistic program on an enterprise level, and that is where you will implement BCP throughout your company. At the same time, the focus of BCP is to bring the business back, but not the entire business back, right? Bring the critical business functions up as soon as possible. That is the entire focus of business continuity. So it is more of a management decision which you have to take beforehand. Okay, if we are flooded by let's say some kind of flood or something like that, what is the strategy we are going to follow? You are not going to troubleshoot the problem because troubleshoot will unnecessarily make delays in making sure that your businesses, at least the critical business functions, are up and running. So what you do, you have to identify your critical business functions first and foremost. And it is also very important, once you identify your critical business functions, you also find their dependencies as well. Sometimes we don't care for it, but sometimes a small dependency can lead to the entire business function to be down. So you not only have to think about the critical assets, you also have to think about dependencies as well. And also one very important thing, it is not only your IT thing, I would say. It is all about people plus process plus technology. It has to be implemented in all three directions. How does it happen? How do we implement the business continuity plan? So on an enterprise level, normally companies have something called as enterprise level, you can say, business continuity management policy. And basis that policy, once you are going to implement it, because this is now no more a liberty or no more a luxury, you can say. Business continuity plan is more of a requirement nowadays. In all the frameworks you will find it, all the legal requirement also, you will find this entire thing to be. Now, while you are planning for implementation, as usually happens in any company, the first thing is you would require approval. You will require a you can say business continuity charter, okay, and that has to be approved by the leadership, because this will require a lot of funds which you might need for implementing the business continuity plan. And this will not only it's a very accountable job, so you are going to also select somebody called as business continuity you can say coordinator, or you can say business continuity head, right? This guy has to be very much experienced and a senior guy who understands the entire business as well at the same time and can help establish the business continuity plan. Once he do that, he also need to establish a team. When he is going to set up this team, we need to make sure this team is just not few people who are very technically efficient. It is a cross-functional team. Why a cross-functional team? Because business continuity is to be applied across the organization. You are going to deal with HR department, legal department, sales department, marketing departments, and so on. So you need to have a cross-functional team for sure, right? So to do that, how does it actually work in the companies? So normally there is a core team, and in that, let's say there are 5-6 people as part of that particular team, and these people are highly trained on business continuity, all the practices, and then they have touch points. They have some extended team in legal, HR, and different departments, so that as and when they are required, you can reach out to them for support, and they are also going to contribute to the entire thing. So this was one thing which is more about you can say the initial requirement. So you can say this is the initiation phase. Once the initiation happens and you have the team with us, right, you have the required team and a trained team with you, then these people have to actually go and work on the ground. But for what purpose? The purpose for these people is to identify what are the critical business functions. So how do these people identify what are those critical business functions? So obviously these people might not be like a superman. Obviously they are going to reach out to different business heads, project managers, and all these kind of people, and they are going to ask them few questions, right? They are going to ask them few questions. Okay, you tell me, out of whatever systems you have, you might have 100 systems, how many systems out of that you feel are the most critical? And oftentimes what happens is businesses feel, okay, my everything is critical. No, there has to be, the criteria has to be very clearly defined, so that you are not able to come out with an entire big list which you are not able to cater. There has to be a particular criteria, and the questions has to be around that, which can help you identify those critical business functions. So for doing this, a very important exercise is business impact analysis. So in this, we identify the critical business functions in each every business line of business, and then the very next important thing is, let's say somebody say it is critical, then how critical it is. What if this particular service is not available? Then what is the loss to the business? And at the same time, while you are talking about these things, right, you also get few very important parameters, which is MTD, RTO, and RPO, right? Understanding these terms is very, very important for the CISSP exam. Maximum tolerable downtime is a defined time which is normally set by the businesses in collaboration with technical people and all of it. And we say, okay, once this server is down, it has to be up and running, let's say within 3 days. And beyond this, there is a very big impact to the company. There is a significant impact to the company. In some cases, you might also go out of business as well. So we have to decide, okay, what is the MTD? If you say that my website is very critical to me because I am running a let's say e-commerce portal, and that is my bread and butter. So if that website is down, then how much impact is there? And based on that impact, within how much time you have to recover that particular system, otherwise you will suffer heavy losses out of that. So that is your MTD. Now when we have MTD, there is also one more term which is called as recovery time objective. It is an objective, that means a set time within which you have to recover the system. Recover the system. Okay, when we say recover the system, means what? Let's say a particular server has become down. This particular server might require you to install the operating system and those kind of stuff, right? Everything. But after installing the operating system and the patches and everything, do you feel the system is ready? May not be, because data is not yet restored on the system. So there is another term which is also called as work recovery time. So in this, we exactly calculate how much time it is going to take for the work to be recovered, and then testing as well, so that the system is up and running. Oh, recovery point objective. Now this is the time, or this is the amount of data you are ready to lose, but this is defined in terms of RPO. Let's say, to understand this, let's say you have a database, and on that database you have a data backup setup after every 1 hour. And let's say after half an hour the system goes down, and then you are able to recover it until the last full backup. At least the half an hour of data has been lost, right? So because the business is configuring their backups after every 1 hour, that means their RPO is 1 hour. They are ready to afford losing that particular data, because even at 59 minute as well, the system can go down, right? when the backup has not been completed. So that's the amount of data loss the business is ready to afford in case of a disaster. Now obviously those companies who are online, like e-commerce portal, all of it, they would not have, they would not even like to go for even 1 minute down. So in that cases they have to spend more on the resiliency and other stuff. Okay, so to the business impact analysis is a very very important, you can say, aspect in the entire scheme of thing. It will help you to identify two things. Number one, what are my critical asset in each and every business, and number two, what is the impact if this particular system is not down. Like if this particular system is down, what is the impact? Apart from this, all these metrics, mtd, rto, rpo, all these kind of things, sometimes it is also service recovery time as well, right? It's just not always a product or a system going down. Sometimes the entire service may go down. A server was down, and that is why the entire line of business is down. So you need to keep that buffer within RTO and WRT, so that the entire service can be also made up and running. So that's also kind of very very critical. Once you identify all these parameters, at least let's say you have 1000 servers in your data center, and out of that you have identified, let's say, 20 servers which are very much required, right? Without which the business will go for a toss. Then you also create some kind of dependency map. You are going to also create a dependency mapping as well. Now what is this dependency mapping? We need to make sure for each and every activity there might be a small spare device, there might be a small hard disk which is required for you to be available at the time of recovery, right? Otherwise the entire business will go down. So that is why you also have to map it up with the dependencies as well. So the first step is initialization into setting up your entire business continuity plan. The second important thing is BIA, and believe me guys, BIA is one of the most tested topic in the CISSP exam. You are going to definitely get 1 or 2 questions out of it. Once you decide, okay, I have done my BIA, there's a lot of data now available to me as part of the entire program, and now you need to take the next step. What are you going to do? So this business impact analysis, when you go and do the analysis, you can also map it up with the existing controls. You are going to map it up with the existing controls, and then you are able to identify what are those gap areas, right? So you are also doing a gap analysis, or you can say you are trying to identify gaps because already there is something existing on ground. You need to find what is the gap, and once you find that gap, now you have a very clear idea what gaps we need to fill, right? And then you are going to note down. It is the entire thing goes onto a documentation part. You are going to make an Excel sheet or maybe a tool or something. That's how we do it. The fourth step in this entire thing is then going to be understanding what is our recovery strategy, right? Recovery strategies. Now these recovery strategies, what are recovery strategies? Let's say you already you already have your infra on-prem, and something goes bad. Let's say the entire facility goes down. How you are going to make sure that you are able to recover from that in the cost effective way and at the very soonest? How can you do that? Maybe you would like to have a DR site, or you want to move on to the alternate site, or you want to have some redundant sites and all of it. You may ask your people to work from home and all these kind of things. So in this particular case, we have different scenarios which are created, and based on that scenarios you put up and populate all the options which are available with you, and then based on your cost benefit analysis and based on your compliance requirement, your leadership is going to choose one out of that. Okay, in that particular case, let's take this approach. Let's say if systems are not available, let's have a contract with the third party. If you feel that entire thing is going to down, we are going to have a heavy compliance fees which we have to pay, let's go with a third party, or let's go with a insurance. So all those kind of things you are going to decide at this particular phase. Once the recovery strategies are done, you already have the gap analysis sheet with you, and you know what is now your strategy. It is now very easy for you to actually create the entire plan. So this is where you are going to document the entire BCP plan. And when we create this BCP plan, do not think that we are going to separately have a BCP plan and then a separate effort will be done for disaster recovery. At the same time, those inputs will also be utilized for preparing your disaster recovery plan as well. What's the major difference between business continuity and disaster recovery? Business continuity is more of a management approach. They don't try to fix the problem. They just think, okay, now something has happened. We have declared disaster because of a reason. There is something which is not under our control. Let's straight away find out ways in which we can at least recover our critical business functions. On the other side, the disaster recovery is a process, right, which is actually more technical in nature, and that is where we try to do things. Number one, we try to recover the given situation. We try to troubleshoot, or we try to find out, we try to salvage if something is required to be done. We try to recover that, and we try to let's say, as per business continuity plan, you have to move to a alternate site. So disaster recovery people will be required to take their systems and establish on the recovery sites, all of it. And then the second phase in disaster recovery is more about you can say restoration. Because at times what happens is, let's say there's an earthquake which has come, or let's say there's a flood which has come. Now this may go in for months together, because your entire facility, though your prime facility, may be down, and by that time you are already now set up at the alternate site. When you want to recover back, that time, what approach you are going to take? Right, you also have to at some point of time come back to your business as usual condition as well, because you cannot work always in a disaster recovery mode. You have to at least come back to normal at some point of time. So this includes your recovery phase and restoration phase. One very important concept which you should be very clear in disaster recovery is, number one, when you are going to recover the systems and everything is already down, the disaster has happened, you are going to recover the system. That time you make sure that the most critical system are first recovered. Your priority is always to recover the most critical systems. But when you are going to for the restoration phase and you are coming back to the business as usual, you don't bring your critical systems first. You bring non-critical system first, because if there is a small challenge or some kind of issue there, your main systems are not impacted. So that is actually what you do as part of this exercise. So you are going to create the BCP plan, and then this will also obviously have some other plans as well. For example, communication tree, communication plan, and support plan, all of this, evacuation plan, contingency plan. What is contingency plan? Is an emergency plan where people safety is always the top approach. In this entire business continuity, one key concept here is people security and people safety is always the top priority, always. Okay, once you are done with the BCP plan, the next thing is, what should I do with my business continuity plan? Should I just keep it in a shelf, or I publish it, or I do share with the people? So sometimes what happens is, maybe the core leadership team might also have a copy of this plan, not only in their office, they may sometimes also have it at their home as well. Now you might be wondering, why at homes? Because sometimes it may happen, right? You're not able to reach to your facility because the entire thing has gone down, and your business continuity plan is located inside your facility. You don't have access to that. So in that case, a copy, if they're available online or will be available at people home, at least to the senior management, they can actually over the phone and other things, they can take that action. Sometimes you may have a central business continuity plan, And then maybe location wise you may need to have separate business continuity plan as well, so that also need to be taken into consideration. Once we do this, the very important stuff is, I have created a plan, but have we tested it? And testing is kind of a very important thing, because if you are not practically testing your business continuity plan, you will never be confident. You never know what are the gaps in there, because it's just a document. So you cannot have disasters at will. So what you do, you actually try to create some kind of testing or contingency exercises and all of it to actually take control of it. So these testings are very important, and for testing you also need to have a awareness program throughout your company, so that role specific people, they know what are their critical activities they are supposed to do in case of a BIA. You are not going to tell a whole lot of things to people who are end user. You are just going to tell them, okay, if there is a fire, in that case you need to evacuate, let's say through stairs, and don't use a lift, and those kind of stuff. Sometimes for people evacuation, it is also because people safety is number one priority. So at times what happens is, companies are not able to trace out, let's say there is a fire in a facility and there are 100 people. You are not able to trace out actually how many people has come out, or if there are still people who are inside the facility. So making some kind of arrangement in those situations is also very important, so that at the same time people are able to quickly exit from the facility as well, and at the same time you are able to count as well, okay, who is inside, who is not inside. So maybe you can use some kind of some kind of punch card and those kind of stuff when people go out. RFID is another idea which you can implement. People just can tap their RFID and then go out. But the challenge with RFID is this, that let's say somebody forgot the RFID, or mostly we have it in the case of some wearable and all of it, but people always don't have it sometimes, right? Or sometimes if it is malfunctioning, then it is the people life who is at danger. So it's very important that you find the right way in which people can be evacuated in all these kind of conditions. And this all thing, you only will get confidence. A business continuity plan is only effective if you have tested it well, you have tested all required scenarios for that particular thing. So that's also kind of very important. Now for testing as well, we might have different approaches. uh, One of the approach for business continuity testing might be a read through test. You have prepared the plan and then you send it to all the required business heads and all of those people to look at the business continuity plan and tell from their team perspective, their business perspective, either if it is matching or some changes are required. Then we also have something called as tabletop, right? In a tabletop exercise, what happens is you gather people, maybe on an online call, or maybe all people coming into a meeting room physically, and that is where you tell them different scenarios and then go one to one by them to take feedback from their department specific inputs, right? So that is kind of a tabletop test. Then the third kind of you can say the process which we do is kind of a simulation test. Now what is simulation? Simulation is actually not practically doing some configuration changes or doing something or putting it something on and off, but we try to replicate the exact scenario there. But like for example, if in the simulation test I have to go to my office and let's say start the standby server. Now, when the simulation test will happen, as per the MTD, entire thing has to be completed, let's say within 2 hours. And let's say for me itself, traveling will take more time and it's getting delayed. So those kind of gaps will be identified. Whenever you are doing a business continuity plan, there will definitely be gaps which you will be always identifying. Just don't, because you have identified few gaps, don't stop. Complete the entire activity as a whole and then keep noting down all those things, and later on you analyze them, and based on that you improve your business continuity plan. Then the next plan is also called as parallel testing. parallel interruption test. So in this, what happens is, one site at a time, let's be main or standby, we test at once. So obviously there's going to be some impact, but not that big impact. And the best and the most effective testing for business continuity plan is to go with a full interruption test, right? But that's kind of a very risky affair, because your entire business may go down. So if in the exam you are going to get certain questions which says, okay, which is the kind of test in which the effectiveness also is very high, and at the same time the chances of interruption is also very minimal. So what you will do, because read through test, this is also less effective, this is somewhat effective, I would say intermediate, but at the same time there is no risk of interruption, so you can go with simulation as well. If they say in the exam, I need let's say you tell me what is the most effective way of testing the business continuity plan, full interruption, right? So you have to make that kind of judgment. The last step is also very, very important, and that is maintaining the plan, maintaining the BCP plan. It is very important, because BCP has to be a live document. On a company level, there are often changes which are keep on happening, and there are major changes which keep on happening. So you have to make it that it is sure. And the different component of the BCP plan, for example, your communication plan, people might be changing, right? The numbers might be changing. You have to keep them current, and always at least make sure at least yearly once you are updating your plan. And whenever you are updating, make sure it goes through the change management process, so that all the required stakeholders are knowing what is happening on ground. That's the best way to do any changes in the business continuity plan. You have to update it as and when there is a major change, or at least yearly once you have to update your business continuity plan. So in a nutshell, right, there is a difference between a business continuity plan and a disaster recovery plan. Business continuity plan is a bigger plan, a holistic plan, and as part of it there are different plans like contingency plan, communication plan, disaster recovery plan. So disaster recovery is nothing but a sub process of the entire business continuity plan. The major difference between BCP and DR is, DR is more technical in nature. The focus is on the recovery and restoration, whereas BCP is more of a management perspective. And the idea is, at least my top revenue contributing process should be up and running in case of a disaster. So that's kind of very, very important. There is a 7-step process I have discussed with you. Then BIA, business impact analysis, evaluating the existing controls and doing the gap analysis, all of it, and then recovery strategies, BCP plan, and then testing, and finally the maintenance plan. So I think this gives you a holistic picture of the entire BCP.